Okay, so today we're going to discuss a theory for RE9 and the story of it that I haven't really covered, and it's been going around for a while now, and it all kind of comes back to one scene in particular from Village, and I'll play the scene out now and you'll probably know exactly what I'm talking about.
Captain, you need to see this. BSAA didn't send soldiers. This is a bioweapon.
What the hell were they thinking?
Orders, Captain.
Pick up the rest of the squad. Plot a course for BSAA Europe HQ.
Okay, so that scene, basically the very end of Village, when you find out the BSAA are sending in bioweapons instead of soldiers to deal with bioweapons. And the theory is that the soldier lying dead on the chairs of the plane looks like Chris. More specifically the Village version of Chris, because they've made like God knows how many different faces for Chris, but the newest one. It looks kind of like him, and at first I kind of like looked at it for a little bit and went, I don't see it, but if you really pay attention to it, and especially if you look through like concept art for that soldier, which there is one, it's very reminiscent to the new Chris's face in Village, and that could be down to two things. Number one, it's just a reuse of an asset. I mean, you don't really see this bioweapon soldier for more than a couple of seconds, so it's not a huge deal, but on the flip side, it could be very important. You know, they could actually be kind of trying to clone Chris into some kind of bioweapon. And it's not too far-fetched, really, honestly, either. So as we know from the end of Village and through files throughout Village and stuff like that, the BSAA are not who they were before. They are a shell of that. They are using bioweapons to fight bioweapons. They are corrupt. Someone is probably pulling the strings higher up that shouldn't be. And yeah, the fact that Chris is one of the founders of this group, it's a big deal for him. And if they are cloning him, again, it's not far-fetched. He's worked with them for a long time, and there's no doubt that they have some kind of medical records of him on file, whether that's through DNA or blood or whatever. And they could very much try and duplicate him and make a clone of him, of a soldier that's just as strong and just as kind of focused as Chris. Did it work? Well, hard to tell because it died, but they might be trying something with him, and it's an interesting theory, and it's not just Chris that people are talking about. Now you gotta remember, a lot of the kind of early cast of Resident Evil are in some way involved with the BSAA. You know, you've got Chris and you've got Jill, and Jill specifically is a very interesting one because of the events of RE5. We know that Jill has some lingering after effects from the events of RE5 in her body. You know, she ages slower than most people, and that could be something that's played on in the Resident Evil 9, you know. Maybe it's not just Chris they're trying to make soldiers out of, maybe it's Jill as well, because she in some way has kind of mixed with a virus in the past and it's kind of stuck with her in some way. And they could try and replicate that. Of course there's other characters where that's happened, you know, you've got Sherry Birkin more specifically, where in 6 you find out that the G virus is still in her body, but it kind of just, it's maintained, like it's not going over the top, it just kind of heals her, which is pretty interesting. And a lot of other characters have had a lot of contact with all kinds of viruses throughout the whole franchise, and they do kind of all link back to the BSAA in some way, so it'll be interesting to see, you know, if it's not just Chris they're trying to do this with. But yeah, Chris specifically is kind of like the key evidence we have right now, and again, it could be nothing, it could be an asset use, but it does linger a little bit, doesn't it? So it makes you wonder. Again, if you look at pictures of Chris in Village and his face, and you look at that, you can kind of see a resemblance. It's not one for one, but a lot of the facial features are still kind of very similar, so it could definitely well be an actual valid theory that may come to fruition. But yeah, it really does make you wonder, like, what's going on in the BSAA, you know, like, who's pulling the strings? Because I would go on a limb and suggest not everyone at the BSAA is on board with what they're doing. Obviously you've got Chris and Jill and all the others who probably don't agree with it, but I'm sure there's still people that work with them that are like, nah, this isn't right. So who's pulling the strings, really? Could it be, you know, that the connections in the BSAA are kind of in cahoots with each other, you know? They could be like helping each other out, and that's not good because obviously you've got like high ups in Umbrella working in the connections, so that's not a good combo at all. Regardless, I think it's definitely a solid theory, and whoever kind of came up with it first, it's a good spot, it really is, and I wonder if it is something that will happen in the future. But just a small one for you guys today, just interesting to cover. Again, there's not a lot of information to really go into it with, but the evidence is kind of there if you really look at it. Let me know your thoughts on it. Do you think it is a clone of Chris? Do you think it's just like an asset flip? Do let me know. But yeah, thank you for watching. Remember to leave a like on the video if you did enjoy, and subscribe for more Resident Evil content as often as possible. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.